let's go ahead and get started because we have not one lab manager today, but three because we have a selection of fun project showcases from the community to share with you today. And to get us started, we have Damie Pak. Damie, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hello, my name is Damie Pak. So I am dressed up as Lou Bega. I don't have any of the clothes required for it, but I was going to talk about like the most serious question of our human existence. Like, if you did not know when Mambo number five came out, like, how would you be a, how would you know? How would you know? And through the woman's name in Mambo number five, if you remember the bridge that goes like a little bit of Jessica or a little bit of Erica,
You
those
should
girls.
know all the lyrics by now.
Well, I'm just like, I have one wife, so, and she does not like me, saying all of these other women's names. Anyway, so my real wife, not Lou Bega's wife. Anyway, so I'm going to be talking about like how I kind of thought of the project and my kind of like philosophy about how to do stupid projects because I think they're really important to learn. And then just kind of like more of a, I'm not sure if this is the right way, but this is how I do it, and maybe feedback from the community. And then more of a, where do we go on from here? Like maybe we could do this with a Bad Bunny song that goes like Titi me pregondo. Oh, my Spanish is terrible.
All
Because
right,
as,
well, Damie, you have
yeah.
15 minutes on the clock, just as a
All
reminder.
right. So let's look at my RStudio code. I have not looked at the Mambo number five code since I published it. So we're gonna go and then see if we could even like figure out what's happening if I actually documented it well. And then just talk about like how I did the structure of it. So this is how I did my Mambo number five. And the weird thing is that I was in academia before, and a lot of academic coding is a lot about like not really reproducibility, or I mean, it is, but I think there's more of like this focus on just like a script, like just figures, and we don't really care about whether it's modular or not. And I've been trying to like learn from that. So basically, how I set up these kind of like data analysis scripts, especially if there's a lot of math, is that I really enjoy having the math as a supplement to the GitHub repo. I think that's really important, because when I do a lot of analysis or when I did a lot of mathematical modeling in R for my postdoc, I mean, the code is whatever, but the math, the fundamental part that moves the machinery is so important. So, I love Quarto. I love how you could just like, can you guys see my, sorry, let me just,
Well, we were looking at our studio. I could
oh
see our
yeah.
studio.
Okay. So this is like my, the full mathematical model. So, even the silly side project where the question was, how do we use Bayesian formula? How do we use the analysis to figure out what year was Mambo number five released based on the woman's name that appeared in the song? So, that's a silly question, but that's actually kind of like a really interesting, way of thinking about Bayesian statistics. I never did Bayesian science ever. Like this was my first time ever doing it. And so I was so scared on starting the project. And I was like, oh no, what if I mess up? Everyone thinks I'm stupid. They send me to jail. And then I just tried to think of like the silliest project, and that was Mambo number five. But even the simple act of taking that simple, question, like there is a lot of math involved. And so, I really enjoy having Corto and then just having the math and then showing it to people in the community to make sure I'm doing it right. Anyway, so let's just move to the coding project. And so let's see. So let's see. I see SRC, so I must have been really smart and actually made all of my functions. Yeah, I must have made all of my functions, like documented, and I'm actually really proud of that. I was really mad at Helly Wickham because what I did was I used social security data to figure out the name popularity of babies. And I was going through like the actual US government pulling that data, and then Hedley Wickham had to ruin my day and actually have an R package already out. So I did this for nothing. You can see that that's why I got a little frowny face here. And basically, with that data, I could then try to figure out, calculate the likelihood. So the likelihood that tells me, given this year, what is the probability that I would see these names, the joint probability. And I'm actually proud that I commented. Like, I'm actually really surprised that I actually put comments because I generally don't, especially for stupid side project. Oh my God, I actually put like, oh, the parameter names too. Wow. Past Dami was, I think she was trying to impress someone. But anyway, so basically what you would do is that you would give like a data frames of the names across the United States and then, have like a general prior belief of what the release years was. Is like did the song come out in 1970 versus like 2000? And then like maybe some belief of how old the women are. Because like they're in the club, they should be like over 21 or maybe they're like 18. They're using fake IDs. And then so wow, I actually put a lot of comments and I am so surprised at this. But basically, I could see that I was like trying to compute the joint probabilities here, and then I was marginalizing by age. I'm not sure what that means. But basically, I think from this project, I was really forcing myself to actually think more modularly. So how, if I want to, adapt this to a different song, how am I going to um make it so that it could be completely adapted to another music with like woman's name in it? And then one thing that I'm not quite sure is the best way, I'm not sure how people in the community do this, is that I try to keep like the analysis scripts different than the functions, like using like two different R script files. I'm not sure if this is the right way of doing it. This is the way that works for me, that's the most organized. I know people like doing the, actually having like the Quarto document and then just having this one main like file that shows everything. But I kind of prefer the script method more with like the numbers that I can like kind of see like in which order I should run them. Not sure if this is the best way, but this is kind of how I do it. And then you can see here that this script is just simply for processing the names. Like we all know that 99% of the things that you do is, processing, cleaning, and then this is kind of like a really bad script because you could see this is where I got really tired and did not put much comments on. I have no idea what's happening here. But from what I gather is that this script just calculates the posterior distribution. So I'm not going to go too much into the Bayesian math, but from here I could see that I processed the script and then calculated the posterior. That kind of gives me an idea, or that kind of gives me the probability, the posterior likelihood that the song was released in this year. And then I think this is like the giant script that made it possible. So we're gonna see if this even runs. Who knows? Like, let's all pray and hope that it runs. It does
Oh my
not run.
gosh. Live coding is so dangerous.
Oh my God, what do we do? We're going to go to jail. Okay, so I'm just gonna. Oh, I guess I'm doing this live, and I can just do it the worst way, where I just source all of this by hand, but I don't really care. This is bad
If you
coding.
if you'd like to watch Dami do other things live, you can watch her episode of VizBuzz where she coded plots live. That was pure chaos and tons of fun.
And they muted me, so I could not swear. It was terrible. Okay, so let's see. Let's see if that worked. Not the best way to do it, but we all can't be
There
saints. Yeah,
there
there you
is
go.
no best way. And also everybody on Discord is saying we do the same things. We keep our stuff separate, our functions totally
Oh,
separate from our analysis. You're not alone.
okay. Okay, and then so this was kind of like the main figure. This was the figure that I had in mind. So the posterior distribution and then the different release years. So for example, if from this figure, when do you think Mambo number 5 was released?
1998 or 99.
99. That was when it was released. And so I think this represents a credible interval from what I remember. But, I was kind of proud because I actually never done much Bayesian analysis. So I was like, oh, this actually worked. I think I should have gone further, because I should have really like checked some of like my assumptions and like actually made sure that I was doing things correctly. And I'm actually not sure if the math is fully correct, and I think that's fine. So I think a lot of my hangups on like open science or like sharing data project is that I'm terrified of being wrong because again, you're gonna send me to jail. But I think my way of now thinking is that we're all human, we're all going to make a mistake. Like it's just inevitable. Like a lot of the things that we do is really complicated. There's so much moving parts. Like even Mambo number five, this silly side project, does have some moving parts. And I think my philosophy changed into actually making it easy for people to catch my mistakes. So, I think that's what I was like trying to do here with like a lot better like coding and or sorry, commenting and structure is that I want people to find my mistake and to find it easily because I think it's just inevitable. I'm not sure if that's like the best philosophy to have. But I think this is better than to, be shy about your mistake and try to hide all of the complexity from people. I think it's just a lot easier to just lay it open. If people find mistake, they're gonna forgive you for letting it be simple. How much minutes do I have?
You have 5 minutes and 20 seconds left, and I say showing your mistakes out loud is kind of the entire point of the data science lab. So I'm in full agreement that that's a good idea.
Yeah, so I guess, that philosophy of like showing your mistake, like that's why I made the math so like visible. Like you could go through the math, you could write it out, you could actually try to make sure that the math makes sense. Like I made my wife, who is a mathematician, actually go through it. Like she had a huge deadline, and there's just me being like, hey babe, can you actually like look at the math for me? But that's I think that's kind of like the main philosophy that I kind of like got after I left academia. Like when knowledge is kind of like the capital of like career investment, you kind of get shy about like letting people know like your mistakes. It's like something that is just it just happens. And so I've been a lot more like very like pro like just find my mistakes for me. Like you know what? I'm just gonna make it happen. And then one thing I'm gonna say on my last minute, I think I really have to thank Mark because I actually he was actually the guy who looked at a lot of my math for me. And I think it shows the importance of community. Just like it's nice having people who see your stupid project and is like, you know what, I'm gonna treat this as seriously as possible and actually like check your math for you. Like I think that's the importance of a data science community. It's not really like the technical know-how, or I mean it is a technical know-how, but just like having people who just like accept and just like actually are interested and like actually care about what you stupid thing you're doing. So, in this kind of age of the I don't think like AI coding can replace the human connections of like the silly projects. So that's why I encourage everyone to do silly projects because you should not let machines take away your stupidity. That should be something very human. And I will stand on this. Do not let the machines take away your yearning, like Lou Bega's Mambo number five. A machine could not
Amazing.
write that.
I mean, people, I mean, you could try. Do a
No.
comparison now. Go
Oh,
to go work in Claude. I was going to ask you, did you use Claude or any other tools to help you with this at all as you were writing?
so I try not to for a lot of my stupid projects,
Hmm.
because it's just a way of learning. So I give myself three tries. If I'm like, hey, I tried this three times, it does not work, then I'd like use Claude and try to see, not really ask it to like code me anything, but just to give me like maybe like an outline of how it would code. So I do use Claude for that. And I think I've done it for like calculating the posterior, but I always make sure to have someone, who does mathematics to check.
Amazing. Yeah, I think that the community aspect is really, really important too. And like, there are so many stories of people working out loud in the community and sharing their stuff, and getting jobs from that, right? Like having really life-changing things happen from that. Um, and in all of them that I know, it was all very imperfect. It was like, yeah, I put out this crappy thing, and the magic happens with the feedback and people engaging with it and people um, finding it fun and kind of wanting to use it or take it in a different direction. So definitely work out loud. There's a place on the Discord server where you can share projects. Um, but really, anywhere on the Discord server is a good place to share projects and show people things. Ask them questions if you share. Well, Dami, you do have like a minute and a half left.
Okay. Oh my God. Oh my God. I had something
Do
really
you want to
great
do
in
one more
mind. Oh my
thing?
God. Oh my God. Oh my karaoke talk. Okay, no, not that. I guess okay, so in my job interview, so I work at a pharma making vaccines, and they asked me, "Have you done anything with Bayesian modeling before?" And I swear, I was thinking about bringing this project up, and I just
You
said,
didn't?
"I didn't." I'm like worried that
Dummy.
I don't know, they're gonna be like, so there is a French company, so I was like, "Oh, do they have Mambo number five in France?"
I think Mambo number five made it all over the globe. At least I
Yeah,
think
because it's
so.
German. Lou Bega's German. It's a German song.
Who thinks that Dami should have brought this up at an interview? I think so.
What did there be like, hey, you have to make vaccines. Do you know Bayesian? I'm like, oh yeah, I did Mambo number five. Like, do you think that would have gone well?
I think it would have. I think it would have been amazing. Well, Dami, thank you so much for sharing your project with us. It was so much fun. Dami, you have a blog. Isabella
I
has
which
been
I haven't
sh
updated.
Isabella has been sharing it, but that project is there. So if you want to go check out Dami's math, please go take a look at it. And yeah, oh, I love the picture that Mark just shared in the Discord server, which is um, D Rob's 2019 talk about working out loud and sharing public work or working in public, um, which is just amazing. And I fully agree with it. Like the more you can do out in the world, the more valuable your work is. Okay, we are on to our next lab manager in our lab manager rotation today, which is Mark Rieke. Everybody give a round of applause for Dami and say hello to Mark. Mark, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah. Hi, guys. I normally have a standing meeting on Tuesdays for the data science lab. So this is actually my first time joining. But I'm
Yay.
a data scientist and a Bayesian statistician and whatever work needs me to be for the time being. But I'm a big Bayesian nerd. So I was very glad when Dami reached out. I was like, oh, hey, can someone look at this? And I was like, oh, yes, absolutely. Bayesian
It's my
stats apply.
time.
Yeah, exactly. Bayesian stats applied to something like niche and weird and fun. Yes, please. But yeah, so I'll be sharing, I guess like my assumption is that like the Venn diagram of like people who like come to the data science lab and people who are interested in dropout or at least like are I don't know. I'm guessing that's like a bigger. There's a lot of overlap in those two groups.
Hold on, let's do a poll. Noor and I raised our hands on camera like nerds. Uh, do you watch Dropout TV? Let's see. Yes or no. All right, poll in Discord. Let us know if you do watch Dropout and you know what Dropout is. Can you do like a thumbs up or some sort of like affirmative emoji reaction when you're in Zoom? Oh, we have a few. Yeah, Jared, Greg, Isabella. Amazing. I also subscribe to Dropout. However, I do not watch the one show that Mark is going to be talking about today, I think so. I'm ready to learn. All right, let's
Yeah.
let's go. I'm going to
Let's
put
see.
15 minutes on the clock for Mark starting now. Oh, by the way, everybody, you can ask questions. So like if you have questions for Dami in the Discord, tag Dami and ask questions. And, if there are some that we can do live at the end, we'll do that. We'll do it in the middle too if we need to. All right, go, Mark.
Okay. I may actually need to quit and rejoin because Zoom is telling me that I needed to update permissions and it's not going to
Oh
update them until I
no,
rejoin. So
it
I'll be
always
back
asks
in
you a
like
million.
15 seconds.
Okay, Dami
Can
will
I
do
sing?
karaoke.
Okay. Wait. Oh my God. How does it like Sandra, Jessica, Arita, no, Derbia.
Wait, are we gonna get like copyright infringement on YouTube if we sing Mambo number five?
I replaced all of the girls' name with Caitlin's name, to embarrass her in karaoke. So I can
Oh,
do
you
that.
guys. Oh man. Mark, you have to come back as soon as possible and save us from ourselves.
From
Oh,
me,
I
you mean?
remember all the lyrics to Mambo number five.
Wait, sing it. You can't just say that and just like
I
not
know,
prove
right?
it.
It goes, One, two,
Two,
three,
three,
four,
four,
five.
five.
Everybody in the car, so come
I'll
on,
be the
let's
girls in the
ride to
background.
the liquor store around the corner.
No, 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 no,
You know the
water.
words. Mark's back.
Okay.
Okay, we did it. Hold on, Mark. I gotta remake you a co-host real quick, my friend, so you can unmute at will. All
Mark, you
right, I'm gonna
missed.
restart your timer, Mark.
Sorry about
So
that.
go. No, I understand. Max,
Uh,
with the permissions in Zoom, there, it's crazy.
it was fun to come back just to Lou Bega playing. But yeah, so for folks who don't know, actually is a show on Dropout. It's just a game show, and the whole premise is um, the host will like make statements about nerdy things, pop culture things, and in each statement there is something that is wrong that is said. So, and the job of the contestants is to like buzz in, be quick on the buzzer, and then make the correction of saying. Actually, the quote isn't like Luke, I am your father. It's no, I am your father. It's that kind of like level of pedantry. It's a great like doing dishes like background noise thing. Uh, but in 2024, they swapped hosts from longtime host Mike Trapp to the person to Ife Wadiwe, who
Oh, I love both of
had
these people. Mike and Iffy are both amazing. I need to watch
yeah
this.
Ife had was like referred to as like the best contestant,
Hmm.
and it was purely based on the fact that he had the most wins. And I was like, well, you can be, you can have you can rack up a lot of wins just by playing the game a whole bunch, or you can rack up a lot of wins by like playing the game a whole bunch, or by playing against quote unquote like lower skilled players or uh, just looking at win count treats a 1 point win and like a massive like 9 point win as the same. They get treated the same. So I was like, I wanted to see if Iffy Nwadiwe really was, if you like did the math, if he really was the best actually player, and that led me down like this wonky rabbit hole that is this building out this model. It is uh, it's a Bayesian model, and the nice thing about it is, let me make this bigger. Sorry. The nice thing about like doing stuff in a Bayesian way is that from like there's like all of the sort of like philosophical reasons that I am a dork for Bayesian statistics, but there is also like the practical benefit of that, like the software to make to implement the model itself is super flexible and malleable, such that you can, rather than try and like hemorrhage your data or like bash it with a hammer to try and get it to fit your modeling software, you can tweak your model to fit your data generating process. And this is like one of the weirdest models that I've ever fit. There's like normally there's 3 contestants, and like one person gets a point in each round, and that has its own sort of like wonky math that goes along with it. Sometimes though, multiple contestants like get a point on the same round, and you have to like handle that edge. And sometimes everyone gets a point. So like this handles that edge case. Sometimes and this is I am just scrolling through and rediscovering all of the old nightmares of trying to get this to work. This is like the flow tree of like, if 2 players are awarded a point, what is the probability that like a player is awarded a point based on their like underlying skill that the model's calculating? So I don't know. This is all kind of like a long way of saying that this really wacky, weird nonsense project had a lot going on under the hood.
Much like Damie's.
Yeah, exactly. Gonna scroll down. Yeah, and there's like there was a single one-off like 4 player game that got included in this as well. Um, and then there's team games. Oh my gosh, there's so many edge cases in this. And again, like the nice thing about like doing this all in one big model is that you can this can all be one big model rather than like, oh, this is a ba, 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 ba.
How do you figure out what points were awarded to who in a team game?
So in a team game, it is the case that we say,
I'm gonna take you
um,
so off track.
yeah, no
I'm
worries.
sorry. You have 10 minutes left. I'm
In a
taking you
team
off track.
game, it's just uh so the way that this thing works underneath the hood is it says every individual player has like some like skill value, and that's kind of like the core of what the model's estimating. And in a team game, you're pitting up two players who are on the same team against like you're just adding their skill values together, and then against the two players on the other team, adding their skill values together. Um, so it awards a single point per team, but it's determining like the probability of like which team is going to get awarded a point based on the underlying skill of the members of the team. Um, but yeah, I guess all of that to say though that like doing this in a single Bayesian model lets you. Oops, this is the wrong one. This is gonna look really nightmarish because it's accounting for all of these extra edge cases and whatnot.
And
But
where
it
are
lets
we
it
looking
mean
at Stan?
yeah, I am.
I don't know if anyone knows what Stan is.
Oh, Stan. So Stan is like it's a hyper focused like probabilistic programming language that has like an interface to R, an interface to Python. But it's really just focused in on like purely writing models. And the really, really nice thing is that Stan code is almost a one-for-one map to like if you write LaTeX, if you like write out a model in on pen and paper, it's really, really, really similar looking. So there's almost like a one-to-one direct translation. It is like a little bit of a hurdle to get up and running with. And
It
I've
is to get it installed. Yeah.
yeah, well, and I'm and just like getting used to like the workflow and whatnot. So I have to at any given opportunity shill Richard McElrath's statistical rethinking for I don't know. Everyone should go read that book, and it'll unwire your brain about how to think about modeling. Um, but yeah, sorry, I'm just rambling. So does anyone have any questions? I'm just yapping about Stan and math, and I don't
We
know. And
did have a question, which was, have you shared your analysis? And you have not shared the end of your analysis yet, but have you shared the
oh
analysis with the dropout slash I'm actually people? I know that they do pop into Reddit quite a lot.
I don't think I my working assumption was that they would not see something from the little likes of me, so I had not. Um, uh, Although I did, I guess like I think I shared it on I at the time I was still on Twitter. I shared it on Twitter and like tagged Brennan Lee Mulligan, who is as this model found like would have the best skill if you like taking into all those considerations. But I'm sure he gets like a bajillion people tagging him every day and stuff.
Oh, I'm sure. Absolutely. So you found out that Brennan, followed by John, Jeremy, and Erica Ishii. Oh, and Matt is up there as well.
Mm-hmm.
Actually had the highest skill. And this
Yeah.
is
So
relative skill relative to other people.
right, right. So this is looking at like if if you were to rank order everyone's like underlying skill. So the way that Bayesian models work is that you generally run like thousands and thousands and thousands of simulations. Um, so this is looking at like in each of those like that set of simulations, we get an estimate for an individual player's skill. If you rank within each simulation from like best to worst, those skill values, what's the average across all of the simulations where that person ends up in like that ordered ranking. So Brennan has an average rank of like 6, just means he's very often up at the top out of like, I think it was like 187 or so. So he is on average the highest ranked player. This accounts for things like if I scroll down, there are some players here who have like Jamel Wood, for example, I think he was a guest contestant who did just blew everyone out of the water, but he was also only on like one episode, so his uncertainty interval was really, really, really wide. Versus someone like Erica Ishii, who has been on like several different episodes, so she has like a little bit of a tighter uncertainty interval um, than like someone who's only on once. So doing this sort of like across all of the simulations comparison negates or it adjusts for this difference in uncertainty between the different people.
Okay, one more question. When we're talking about relative skill relative to other people, does that mean that if somebody of high skill is playing against other contestants of low skill, that that win is discounted?
It just means that you would expect them to do pretty well, and if they don't do well, then it means then it's probably the case that they that like the model will update their skill estimates to be like lower, and then the inverse for the person who is like low skill and then like did really really well. I looked at like a couple like hypothetical examples. So if you put this match has never happened, but if you put like Brennan Lee Mulligan, Ify Dwadue, and then like Ali Beardsley all in a match together, Brennan is likeliest to win, but obviously like Ify and Ali have like not a non-trivial chance of winning.
They at least have a lot of overlap in there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Amazing. Well, do we have any questions, Isabella, that I have missed? I feel like it's um hard to compare anybody to Brennan Lee Mulligan because he's a superhuman brain. But I think that there's something to be said for like the instinct that everybody has that says that Iffy is the best, that there's something that is non-skill related that makes us want to just say that Iffy is the best. And I love Iffy, so I would probably be on that same train. Um,
I
Let
think
me
that there's I was
scroll back
gonna
up here because we did have
just
one
like on
question
that
that was
note, there's like
related.
a big benefit of sort of like the like what Dami did, what this is doing, is that like rather than like constructing like a proxy from things that you have sort of like readily available, because like Bayesian models themselves are so flexible and you can implement really like whatever. There's a really good example of it is this is my favorite paper. Um,
I was just going
this
to say this feels really applicable to sports.
Yes. So this, yeah, the, sorry, I'm like trying to do too much all at once. Um,
You're fine. No pressure. 2 minutes, 20 seconds.
so yeah, here we go. This is, so one of the things that's like nice about like Bayesian models is that you can actually like, if you have some sort of like obscure thing that you're interested in, like the math nerds will say if your estimand is your quantity of interest is like difficult to measure, you can still measure it directly and like directly encode that in the model, rather than constructing sort of like a weird proxy that like kind of gets at it but kind of doesn't. And that's kind of what counting up total wins is. It's like a proxy for player skill, but it isn't what player skill is directly. So you can include that in the model, even though we don't like there's not any observations for player skill. This example is looking at this is like the Bayesian model workflow from that like Gelman and some folks on like the Stand Dev team like put together a while ago. But as like an example of like flexible software implementations, they rather than fitting like a logistic regression to like a set of golfers, taking putts, they fit what they call like a geometric model where they actually model, do the sort of like geometry, encode like the actual like geometry in terms of like distance and like shot angle and like radius of the hole in golf, encode that in the model directly to get like, if you were to use a pure statistical model, you get kind of a bad fit. You do this geometric fit and it's much, much better. But yeah.
Amazing. All right. I'm gonna interrupt you in your last 30 seconds and say the people demand you talk about your Arc browser.
Oh, I like Arc. I like that it has I like that it does like mirroring across multiple things. The only thing I don't like about it is that sometimes if I pull up something and then like this screen goes like kind of gray and it always throws me off.
It's like
But
when your shiny app goes to sleep.
yeah, but I love it. Just quick and easy and snappy.
Yeah, I think a lot of people have said like, hey, it's not supported anymore. It's just not being actively developed, but I think that they are still like applying security patches and stuff, which is good enough for a lot of people.
Yeah, yeah. At some point, I will have to. I don't know when. Also, at some point, I'll have to migrate off of Arc to whatever the new flavor of thing is. But for now, it still works.
All right. Well, also, Zach had said this probably isn't possible or realistic, but what do you think about doing something like this for Game Changer? And I said, I pity the fool who tries to analyze Game Changer.
Oh, Zach, I have thought about that, and it is all of the
Honestly, I have
asterisks,
to.
all
I
of the
think that
asterisks
Mark
and
and I have
caveats.
talked.
Yeah,
Yeah.
everything that I was like, oh man, this is like the actually thing was so weird and wonky and strange. There's like like that times a million for Game Changer.
Yeah, often Game Changer is so chaotic. If anybody has not watched Game Changer, this last season of Game Changer was probably the funniest that I've ever seen. And it's Game Changer is a game show where the rules are constantly changing according to things that are happening in the game show. And oftentimes rules are abandoned, things go crazy, and you end up with like this inverse reality. Um, highly recommend it if you have not watched it. I will also plug one more thing for Dropout. If you like D&D and you enjoy watching actual play podcasts, the production value of Dimension 20 is amazing. Go watch the early ones, especially Crown of Candy, Unsleeping City. Like they just have Fantasy High, just have amazing production value with their sets. Okay, we have one more lab manager for today, and that is Sam Parmar. And we still don't know if his mic works. So let's find out in real time. Sam, does your mic work now?
Hello? Can you hear me now? Okay,
Yay!
perfect.
Oh, he's the Verizon guy. Okay, let's do it. Sam, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, so Sam Parmar. I was I guess, member of the data science community. It's been a while since I've rejoined, just because of work and other obligations. And
Boo.
I'm a part of some external working groups, and then I also work in pharma. And yeah, I'll be sharing some of my adventures with Quarto extensions. So I'm going to share my screen, if that's okay with everyone.
Absolutely. Let's do it. I will put 15 minutes on the clock for you, but hey, our time's going to run out around that time anyway, so
Yeah, let me
let's
see.
do it.
Sorry.
Reminder, everybody, you can ask questions in Discord if you would like to.
Sorry, I need to rejoin permissions. Zoom. Yeah, great. Sorry.
You got it. Dami will sing again.
Then Rita Ora?
Not Rita Ora.
Wait, who's Rita Ora?
A real person.
Danny DeVito's wife.
That's Rhea Perlman.
Oh, your disco
All right.
needs you? No, that's Kylie.
Wait while we I Rita Ora is like a model and an actress.
In
Yeah.
what?
In things that are maybe in the UK and things that I don't know. Help, are you from the UK? Do you know who Rita Ora is? You don't see your profile pic in Zoom. I don't know why, Marcos. I don't know. I see everybody else's. I think I do. Or wait, maybe I just see people who are sharing their camera.
Sam is back. But Sam, if you are speaking, we cannot hear you.
Yeah, Sam, are you sharing your screen? Yeah, I see your screen, but I don't hear you. Hold on, we need to find Sam and make him a co-host again.
Perfect. Thank you.
Um,
I was
yeah,
locked out
he's
there.
he's back. Thank you.
Well, so I just want to quickly show Quarto if you've never used it before. It's a flavor of Markdown as well as a command line interface. And this is a general scheme of what's going on. You have Quarto, and then you have some sort of engine that converts R code over to Markdown or Python code. This engine can be swapped out with other ones depending on what you're using with Quarto. And then ultimately, you end up getting all these different wonderful formats: HTML, PDF, Word, PBTX, Reveal.js, and it's a lot of, I guess, awesomeness there. If you've never been to the Quarto website, there's a lot of resources there, documentation there that's worth checking out. The gallery is great because you can learn more about some examples people have created. And how I originally learned about extensions, which is what I'm going to be focusing on, is from Rich and the talk he did in PositConf 2023. This was absolutely amazing, and it kind of inspired me to just go down this rabbit hole a little bit and start learning more. So as a part of this talk, he did plug this, and I'll share links maybe after or I'm done. But basically, he plugged this listing that they have on the Quarto website. So if you want to get there, you can basically go to the main quarto.org page, and then you go over to extensions, and then you'll see all these different categories that are available. And basically, these are community-made Quarto extensions that people host on GitHub, and you can see the authors for the related types of extensions. As an alternative to this, more recently, within I think the last year or so, Mikhail, who's on the Quarto development team, has created this awesome alternative Quarto listing. And if you like Google Quarto extensions, you'll see I think this in the top like 10 search results or something like that, or top five. And it's just as good, and it follows a similar scheme. I think he had reached out to get some feedback, and he ended up changing the UI, and I really love it. So I thought I would plug that too. And the main reason I'm plugging this is kind of like the back end to the extension that I recommend anyone who uses Positron install on their computers. This is basically, I think, the resource or the library of all the extensions that he uses for Quarto Wizard. So Quarto Wizard is this wonderful Positron extension that makes installing and managing your Quarto extensions that you might have for any project very simple. I'm just going to plug that real quick. I'm going to reshare my screen and make sure I share my window. Okay. So content only.
I see a browser in the background and then in Positron, very, very small in front. There we go.
There
All
we
right,
go.
Positron.
Okay. Yeah. So it's just an outline that I came up with right a few minutes ago. So basically, the extension is available if you go to, let me see, um, extensions, and you can search Wizard, and you'll see Quarto Wizard. You can install it, and it's on the VSX registry. It's also available on VS Code, their marketplace. If you use that and you still haven't migrated over to Positron, that's fine. And it's wonderful. This is basically what it looks like. I've installed a few of the extensions that I've built over the years here. And the main idea is that you can basically just search the registry, which is the website I showed you, and browse all the different types of extensions that are available there. And I think it's over 300. So this makes like the user experience of like trying to identify extensions or like discover them much easier. So there's like the discovery question, like similar to our universe or PyPy that a lot of people run into of like, okay, how do I know what's out there? Well, this is the solution to that. So I just want to plug that, and the extensions that I've built basically are hosted or available, discoverable on these two resources, the Quarto Wizard or the listings that I shared. Okay. So I'm going to talk about some of the extensions I made, and I thought I would start with a fun one that I first made to kind of step into this area. And this is based on this like kind of funny Easter egg collection in JavaScript that was written by Wei Chia Cheng, and it's like really cool. So if you want to use this, I think we'll be doing an update soon because I haven't touched it in a while. The general idea is that you can incorporate Easter eggs. And the Easter eggs work where you just like type in some sort of like secret command, and it does like this animation just pops in. So if I type in hi, like that'll come in. If I type in haha, like this will like just go through your web page.
Wait, are you typing something? Because I can't see.
Oh yeah, let me reshare. Sorry. Okay. Yeah, thanks for telling me that.
Did anybody else see him typing?
No.
No. Okay.
Okay, so this is what it looks like. I'll just need to remember to, yeah, switch back and forth. Okay, so it's Quarto Easter eggs, and the idea here is like I type in hi as a special command, wink like it's another command, and then there's like various. This
Stop.
is like a preset collection that he already had built, so it was like really easy for me to port over this JavaScript code, and then I bundled it together in this like kind of cool info page for anyone who wants to use it. So I think there's one Pokeball. Let me see. There's bat, and there's
Okay.
other ones. But yeah, you can check it out if you're interested. Um, UFO, yeah, there's UFO. Okay, so that was a kind of like a low stakes project that was fun, and nobody ever uses it. That's fine. It's just something that I can kind of chuckle at, and maybe
Please
like
do the Pokeball really quickly. We need it.
yeah. Let me see if I can type it in without making a typo.
No mistakes. That's hard. The longer these words get, the harder it gets to like do them with no mistakes. The people demand demonstrations.
Yeah, there it is.
Oh my goodness.
So yeah, right now I think the GIFs or animations are linking to his website, but I'm gonna see if I can fix that so that maybe there's like self-contained in the Quarto extension. So this is kind of like a fun example that I like Damie's presentation she did, so I thought I would share this one first. The really like more complicated one that I ended up getting into after that was this flashcards extension, and I'll just share the page instead of sharing my screen. Maybe that'll be a little bit easier. So the general idea is that let me see here. That I wanted to see if I could like create, and I understand Anki is like the alternative that a lot of people use for flashcards, and it's
Yeah.
great. Um, and I think that the algorithm that they have in Anki is way better. But I wanted to have like a very simple alternative in Quarto, so I use Reveal.js. And so when you see a Quarto extension, you'll usually see this sort of extensions folder, and this is basically whenever you install the extension, this is the material that basically gets put into your directory. So whenever like you're updating it and it'll reference this information. And generally all the extensions will have this like underscore extension YAML file there that has a lot of important information, including some of the scripts that are referenced and the config information. So this config information is actually what's like updatable. And different extensions do this in a different way. But the idea is that you're like basically surfacing some sort of interface to make it easier for your end users to maybe customize the extension according to their needs. So here's a very simple one. There's like a flip key that I have, a shuffle key, a button that will be shown or hidden depending on what they want, and then a reset on slide chain. So specifically, there was a request from a community member who was actually a teacher who said, okay, this is great, but whenever I go to the next slide, I want it to reset the previous slide. So then I added that in because they were using it for their class, and some of the students were, I guess, getting annoyed by that. And then there's like a different color for the front and kind of color for the back. That was another piece of feedback that I had gotten. This is what it looks like. It's very simple to use, easy to set up. And let me show you the syntax really quickly here. So the syntax is one where basically you use this sort of div triple colon format, and then you specify the class for the flashcard in the front, flashcard for the back, and then you basically just use a reveal.js syntax for a slide, which is basically like a header 2 level there. So you're basically reusing, if you're familiar with reveal.js and Quarto, you're reusing that sort of thing, but instead your slide is now a flashcard. And this is
Amazing.
how it actually works. So there's like a dead image from Wikipedia. That's why the image doesn't show up initially. And then you can sort of use the existing stuff from Quarto and reuse that. So the histogram there, you can do a different background and a lot of other stuff. If you need to shuffle, you can do that. So that's like one of the first ones I really got into. And there's others that I've made that I think are maybe worth sharing. The quiz one is probably the one that I think has maybe added the most value for people, including some professors, especially if you're doing like a workshop. And the general idea here is it uses a similar scheme, some of the stuff that I talked about with the flashcards extension. And it has a little bit of a different syntax though. So in this case, all you do is specify a class at the end of your sort of slide title, and then you can use a list syntax for like your bullet points. And instead of reading it as bullet points, it reads it in as options for your quiz basically. And each of the quiz questions are kind of self-isolated, but you can actually calculate or score and include that if you want to. And there's a lot of features baked in, so you can sort of decide. Like for example, there's a community member that asked about adding explanations on like why an answer is right or wrong. So that's baked
Hmm.
in. And there's like a lot of stuff too. So each of my Quarto extensions usually have like some sort of keyboard shortcut. So the other one, I think the keyboard shortcut was Q. So if you hit the Q button, then it's like really easy to go back and forth. Very similar with the quiz extension. If you hit the number one, it'll select the first option. If you hit the number two, it'll select the second option and so on. And then if you hit the C button, it'll check it for you. And there's like another one for like resetting as well. And basically, all the information is there on the footer, so you can try it out and sort of learn how to use it as you go through the example. Um, yeah, so this is what it looks like, and then you'll see you can render code, and then you can also get yeah, some examples that will automatically randomize a little bit too. So all the options will randomize for some questions if you want that. And then you can also embed pictures and that kind of stuff.
This is so cool. I think we all agree that this is so cool. And we have a question, actually, if we want to step back to the flashcard one.
Yeah.
Um, Dan Chen had asked, is there a way to make it three-sided? Because when you are working in, I think he was talking about learning Chinese, like you need different versions of characters as options, which is a great, like, probably common use case across a few languages. Do you
Yeah,
think that that's an option?
maybe that would be an option. It's something that I haven't been asked about. Right now, I've only been thinking of flashcards as having like a front and back identity.
Yeah,
But maybe if you raise an issue about that with an example, I could sort of look into how feasible that would be. Yeah.
amazing. All right, we have 5 minutes left. Do you happen to have anything else you would like to show us, or we can do some questions as well, if we
Yeah,
have
I
any.
mean, there's others that I've made. The Quarto Excalidraw one is a really cool one where it just like gives you like an Excalidraw DOM. And it's very similar to the Quarto drop extension. So all you do is basically you press a button. Let's see if I can move this right here. Or you press a shortcut and then you get like basically um, see here, you get Excalidraw canvas that you can operate off of. So this is great if you have like slides or other information. The nice thing about Excalidraw is you can sort of save some of this information. I don't know if I ended up like filling an issue regarding like local storage. So like if you updated any of this content, it would save for your web page instance. But maybe I'll do that in the future. Yeah, so this is kind of a cool one. If you've ever used Excalidraw for this kind of thing. And then the last one I will just plug really quickly is a speech extension, which I think is also really cool. And this ports some Reveal.js code that's already in the community over to Quarto. And the idea here is that I'm going to allow my microphone. I think Isabel, you might have seen this one, but basically I can control my slides with my voice because it uses the voice recognition API in your browsers. So if I say next slide, see if it works. Allow. Next slide. Yeah, so it's working there. Sorry,
Woo!
it was a little bit
I
of a
was
delay.
worried that
So
Zoom would override it.
yeah, I was worried too. And then previous slide. Yeah, so it does that. And then there's like additional commands you can bake in, and you can even like have an Easter egg if you like really wanted to be cool. The example goes over like how you could like count sheep, one sheep, yeah, and then you could sort of keep going and that kind of thing. There's a little bit of a delay in there, but yeah, thought it would be cool to share.
This is so cool. This is very, very cool. I think that you are one of the most prolific community contributors to extensions. And I had saw a question on Blue Sky recently about extensions, I think just yesterday, that was like kind of what is an extension? Are they as fragile as packages, right? If they're all stored on GitHub, what happens if they update? The extensions that I've used have just like I run a command, they pull down into an extensions folder, and then they stay there and they don't really need to call back to anything. Um, can you talk a little bit in your last like minute about that, how extensions even work?
Yeah, so in most cases they don't. They're usually self-contained. It's worth maybe looking through some of the source code and making sure they're not reaching out to some sort of website, because in some cases, like similar to some our funny R packages, they could do that. So that's just something to be aware of if you're security minded. But generally speaking, like I showed you, you'll see this sort of underscore extension YAML file along with another files that accompany that, and they'll all be self-contained within an underscore extensions folder, as you said. So yeah, it's kind of like up to the user. These are like self-hosted on GitHub, so it's just important to be aware of that.
Perfect. Thank you so much for the explanation. Big, huge thank you to Dami, Mark, and Sam today. Everybody give them a round of applause. This was so much fun. Thanks for hanging out. We'll see you soon, Thursday or next week. Bye, everybody.